place on fire. Let's get higher. I'm gonna set your place on fire. Let's get higher. Put a little bit of shit, put a little bit of shit, put a little bit of shit. I'ma make it burn, I'ma make it burn, I'ma make it burn, I'ma make it burn, I'ma make it burn.
And we are live. Let's get some 07s in the chat. 07 for the thumbnail, as always. Welcome everyone watching now and in the future. My name is Teray. You're watching The Barracks, your non-Euclidean network in a multipolar world, bringing you news, interviews, critical theory, geopolitical analysis, some drama every now and again when it drops. Spicy drama today. Spicy today. But before we begin, I'm going to remind y'all to share it up on YouTube, share it up on Twitter, on X, formerly known as Twitter. You got the link available to you. Why aren't you reposting? Why aren't you following, liking, subscribing? And we are out here multiple times every single week. You know, I'm doing it myself. Got to get on there, pushing it out everywhere so that we can get people the, you know, we can get people these hot takes. All right. Yes. We had some, you know, we had some drama drop, an official statement drop by Max Blumenthal from the Gray Zone, who we love and respect here at the Barracks. We admire his work. Been following him for years. And, you know, back when I started getting my feet wet writing news articles and trying to get that global perspective, Max Blumenthal was one of the men I looked to for inspiration for what what professional anti-imperialist journalism could look like. So obviously, when he makes an official statement, I have to pay attention. Maybe some of you don't know Ben Norton. I had been following Max back when he was doing the Moderate Rebels podcast with Ben Norton. So when, you know, the two, there was a silent schism that nobody was talking about, but there were whispers of what was going on. You know, and it's always best never to pick sides when, you know, someone as professional, as mature as Max never called for any sort of solidarity, any sort of defense. Someone's going to run for his defense. None was asked for, none was given. There were, of course, Yeah, we'll get into it. We'll get into the details. There is a very long and in-depth expose, likely with more details to come as people are starting to realize the criminal minds behind the alien face, the malformed face of Ben Norton. People are starting to realize, and leftist autists coming to the aid of Ben Norton in defense of both sidesism, rushing to the defense of the criminal alien scum who is known as Ben Bait and Switch Norton. A+ nickname, by the way, from Max Blumenthal. I know Max doesn't really like MAGA people very much, but he's got a little MAGA in him. Max Blumenthal does, whipping out a nickname like Ben Bait and Switch Norton. It's good. I will admit. I will be the first to admit. That's going to be sticking with him for a while. But make sure to. Oh yeah. Before I forget, gonna drop the Telegram link in the video chat here. If you're not following on Telegram already, if you're not getting involved, it's our news aggregator here, where you can get first eyes on all of the hottest topics that we will be talking about on Twitter, on YouTube. So it's like these journalistic first responders who are all on Telegram and eyes and ears on the ground all across the world. And it's our source here for news aggregation. So go and give it a follow. Make sure to follow us on x.com. Leave some comments, y'all. I see there's 3 of you in the room. You're not leaving comments. Where the hell is the energy, y'all? We are at war with malformoids like Ben Norton. We are at war with these professional wreckers. Not just Ben Norton, Caleb Maupin and the like, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders, the professional leftist frauds. We are at war with them. We must take inspiration from men like Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz, who declared war against the Uniparty, who declared civil war. Well, he didn't declare civil war. Democrats are calling it a civil war, but he declared war against Kevin McCarthy and made good on his threat to oust him from his position as Speaker of the House for daring to go along with the Ukraine war, for daring to raise the debt ceiling and increasing inflation, breaking the backs of the American working class. Matt Gaetz stood up and single-handedly ousted Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy. We should do the same for the professional wreckers and soft-headed activists, the Trotskyists, the land-back scammers. We should do the same. Declare war on these people, because they will stab us in the back given the slightest provocation, as we will see, as we will get into. But as we're warming up to it, we have to talk about some news. So before we get into the main topic, you know what? I'm petty. Let's get into the main. The main gossip here. We got 5 people in the room. Make sure to check out the chat to follow us on Telegram. But so earlier today, now as I was compiling my sources for, we were going to talk about U.S. aid fomenting riots in Georgia, in the country, in the Caucasus, fomenting riots in Georgia, and trying to open up a second front on Russia's border. These underground networks of spies and saboteurs, funnily enough related to what we're going to be talking about today with this Ben Norton scandal. But I spent hours and hours just researching what's going on in the Caucasus, who's involved, how is Samantha Power leading this behind the shadows, all of this work. But sometimes duty calls you to the front lines. And our man, Max Blumenthal of the Gray Zone, editor of the Gray Zone, dropped 4 hours ago, around 4 p.m., dropped his official statement of the splits between him and the alien Area 51 escapee Ben Norton. Some of you who are as old as I am, have been, or even if you're not as old as I am, but you've still been following Max for a while, are probably familiar with his old podcast, Moderate Rebels, in which he was a podcast he co-hosted with Ben Norton that in January 2022 suddenly disappeared. Ben Norton and Max Blumenthal were no longer, they weren't referencing each other, but were no longer making videos together. Ben quietly disappeared from the Gray Zone. Some of you may also remember his weird foray into a project he called Multipolarista. Yes, Barrio Mechatanky. Area 51 ET cloning confirmed. Ben Norton criminal physiognomy confirmed. Like that criminal physiognomy never lies. Those weird glassy glassy eyes, the triangular dome of his large ovular head. Clear signs of of the criminal mind in that malformed skull. We should have seen it. We should have seen it coming. Physiognomy never lies. The comment, Yankee, the comment is on Twitter. Milkman the Milkman who made the AI image of Ben Norton that I'm using for the thumbnail had posted Ben Norton through Midjourney saying make a rendering of Ben Norton as a gray man, and it didn't change much, didn't do much to make to reveal his reptilian alien true form, and people had, I forget who reposted it, just saying no, I don't what it was. No, he has a twin. Now I remember, there's been so much posting about Ben Norton that I forgot that in Max Blumenthal's, we'll watch that video as well, but in his long screed, it wasn't a screed. I should actually be more generous in that. Max has, to this day, 2 years after the incident of being defrauded, it has still remained very professional, but he posted a video of him confronting Ben Norton in Nicaragua. And I didn't know this. Ben Norton has a twin. If you didn't know that Ben Norton has a twin, that there are more people out there who look as malnourished and sinister as Ben Norton. Yeah, he has an even skinnier, sicklier, paler, more ghastly looking twin brother. So this alien cloning project is confirmed. People had reposted the Milkman calling attention to this, now with this AI generated image. So, but yeah, his brother, the failed cloning experiment, the failed Area 51 cloning experiments, they are multiplying. Yes. Oh, we're getting more people in the room. While I turn on some studio light, make sure to like and subscribe and follow us. Telegram link in the chat. I'm gonna turn on some studio lights. Should be a little better. Y'all, how come we don't get 7 people in the room when I'm talking about the Caucasus? When I'm talking about a second front on the Russia border in the Caucasus? How come we don't get 7 people when we're talking about geopolitical security, but we get 7 people in the room when there's gossip? Y'all are some catty ass hoes. Y'all are some catty ass hoes. I get 8 people in the room for gossip. You know, the latest 9 people in the room over the scandal for criminal physiognomy, for malformoid Ben Norton, and defrauding the gray zone for $70,000. We get 9 people in the room for gossip. Well, we can't get 9 people in the room talking about the geopolitical situation in Georgia and Armenia. Y'all are some catty ass hoes. That's just the God's honest truth. But we will get into it. So this is the tweet that Max Blumenthal had dropped 4 hours ago, going quite into depth of what had happened back in January of last year, so almost 2 years ago. And Max hints that he could go into more detail, probably will in the coming weeks as people and as these leftist autists come to the defense of Azovite Ben Norton, Hitlerite Ben Norton. Enough silence. The criminal schemes of Ben bait-and-switch Norton must be known, says Max Blumenthal. On January 2022, again, almost 2 years ago, Ben Norton, 2 years. Can we just appreciate how professional Max Blumenthal has been for 2 years? Avoiding turning this into this public debacle, and only until Ben Norton has to move all the way to China, in my opinion, to escape criminal charges that should rightfully be brought against him. Only then, after 2 years of silently, painfully trying to avoid litigation, does Max Blumenthal reveal the truth. Shout out to Max Blumenthal, who has retweeted us in the past. We appreciate him more and more as time goes on. So Ben Norton in January of 2022 lied to the public about the circumstances of his departure from the gray zone, creating the false impression that he left voluntarily in protest of our critical coverage of the mass surveillance, repression, and penury imposed on citizens across the world under the guise of pandemic controls. In fact, I fired Ben for publicly attacking his colleagues, and particularly me, over our opposition to perpetual lockdowns and jab mandates. This is Max Blumenthal saying this on X.com. He thus violated an employment contract he signed, which explicitly forbade gray zone contractors from attacking one another in public. That's a common Trotskyist tactic. For anyone who calls us wreckers, for calling us people splitting the working class movement, let's just point out here that it was Ben Norton, just like it was Caleb Maupin who started this attack, who, without provocation, attacked Jackson Hinkle. It was scum like Ben Norton who was attacking his co-workers. So before anyone makes the accusation, before these maligned autists make the accusation that it was any of us starting this, it was 2 years ago that Ben Norton started this. Max goes on. This behavior followed a string of bizarre ethical breaches and came during a lengthy period in which Ben refused to work or communicate with me. After being fired, Ben unilaterally seized control of numerous social media accounts belonging to the Gray Zone. He also seized the YouTube and Patreon accounts dedicated to our shared Moderate Rebels podcast. Yeah, if you look at the Wayback Machine, you can confirm that this geopolitical economy report, horrible name by the way, just god awful, just least approachable name. It's like he's trying to be unpopular. Well, he is trying to be unpopular. If you go back on the Wayback Machine, the Patreon, which is now called Geopolitical Economy Report, was Multipolarista, which used to be Moderate Rebels. But all of the Moderate Rebels content has since been washed by the thief, Ben Norton. So Ben then initiated a shocking bait-and-switch scheme, attempting to reappropriate these accounts to establish a new outlet, Multipolarista, which was exclusively under his control. That outlet was rebranded this January as the Geopolitics and Economy Report. In doing so, he deceived the public, stole intellectual property belonging to the organization which had employed him for over 3 years, defrauded supporters of moderate rebels, and violated a written agreement with me to share earnings from our podcast. And if you look at the Wayback Machine, the Patreon account had, like, at the time of theft, had somewhere around like 500 supporters. It's grown since then, so the amount of money being racked up continues, to get bigger and bigger. Minimum 30, like it's minimum $30 per patron. At the time, of theft, was with 500 patrons. That's that's well over $10,000 a month. Like, what is that? 15,000 a month. Just for minimum, bare minimum. Defrauding Max Blumenthal in the gray zone of that much of monthly, and this has been going on for 2 years now. So imagine how much in back payments this disgusting Azovite, Hitlerite alien. Imagine how much he owes now. According to our original agreement, says Max Blumenthal, to split earnings from moderate rebels, Ben and I each received approximately $3,000 per month. Since absconding with our podcast's Patreon account in January 2022, I estimate that Ben has received $70,000 I would have been entitled to. I was only able to reestablish control of the Gray Zone social media properties by delivering Ben a cease and desist letter, see screenshots below, through a legal advocate, and threatening him with a lawsuit if he did not enter into a process of negotiating a fair and equitable separation agreement. Ben was so determined to avoid legal and public accountability for his actions, and I was so averse to public drama, that we began a mediation process. 2 years ago. Again, can we just, come on, y'all, can we get some more comments in the chat just applauding Max Blumenthal for his professionalism here to avoid public drama? And just how, and his hand has been forced at this point to make it clear to where the original sin lies. 2 years of this, like $70,000. That's insane. He goes on, this ultimately resulted in him agreeing to relinquish control of all social media accounts except for the Patreon belonging to moderate rebels. Following the conclusion of the moderation process, Ben deployed yet another cynical deception, suggesting in a final message to YouTube subscribers of moderate rebels that he had somehow been censored. In fact, he had signed an agreement to relinquish control of that account, where he had apparently been profiting from my labor by taking 100% of our ad revenue. He therefore violated our agreement, another broken contract amid a string of criminal schemes. When I terminated Ben's position at the Gray Zone, I emphasized to him that if he had been so indignant about his colleagues' views on the pandemic, he could have resigned on respectful terms and retained our support for his future ventures. I never once demanded he take my line on the issue as a condition for collaborating with me. I also reminded him how I found him work at Alternet after he was let go by Salon.com, then arranged another job for him after our positions ended there. And I recalled how I arranged legal support for Ben after we were hit with a malicious slap suit relating to his work. Thanks, man. Like, this goes to, you should just let failed leftists drown when they're splashing around in their own failure. Never jump in to save them. Do not support these people. They will always stab you in the back. They will always commit these acts of theft and sabotage against you. Let this be a lesson to all of us. Gerbil Report, how are you doing? Salute to you, sir. Yes, nihilist scum is the perfect descriptor for this man. Thanks to the Gray Zone's support, Ben was able to travel to political flashpoints and report from the ground. He was treated fairly and granted total editorial freedom. He was even able to buy property in Nicaragua. Yeah, when there he became a sexpat of his own country, just like non-compete. he has this Nicaraguan wife, and both of them have moved to China so he can pursue his doctorate and God knows what. In the end, Ben rewarded our trust by fomenting a damaging public conflict on an issue he no longer discusses. He deceived our audience about the terms of his departure. He attempted to steal our social media accounts to boost his own brand and paycheck, and defrauded investors to our Patreon account to profit from my labor and make off with tens of thousands of dollars. In over 2 decades in independent media, I have not worked with a more cowardly, unethical scoundrel than Ben. As he arrives in a new country to benefit from the goodwill of his hosts, citizens must be warned that a criminal mind is lurking in their midst. While I would prefer this to be the last time I speak Ben's name, I have more to say if necessary. Below is the cease and desist letter detailing the illicit and devious activities of Ben Norton. And below here is the video of Ben having moved to China to pursue a doctorate. Dr. Chomsky. He is of that similar. He is of that similar ilk, and he is a Noam Chomsky type of snake, isn't he? Calls himself a friend of the working class, but he's one of these lazy, failed laptop jockeys, riding on the coattails of people harder working, more noble and professional. So here's the video of Max Blumenthal confronting Ben Norton in Nicaragua. Flying all the way out to Nicaragua to confront the man who stole $70,000 from you and trapping him on a bus. So this is a Yankee. You were questioning where the post about Ben being cloned came from. It comes like this video where we see that Ben Norton has a twin. Max Blumenthal, this for background, Max Blumenthal had said, after Ben violated the terms of our mediation agreement, man, what a scumbag. Like, stealing someone's social media account, stealing tens of thousands of dollars from them, agreeing to be in a mediation process, and then breaking the mediation process just so you can steal more money because you're such a failure and you're such a parasite that you can't generate any revenue on your own. Like his media streams are so failed. He can't stand on his own 2 legs. So after that, the second defrauding, Max says, I decided to break my silence about his deceptions and financial crimes, but I waited for an opportunity to hold him personally accountable. When I and Anya Parampil confronted Ben about his crimes during a visit to Nicaragua this July, he was unable to muster a single word in response. Instead, he took cover behind his girlfriend and twin brother, refusing to even look me in the eye. This is the behavior of a fraudster who cannot conceal his own guilt. So this is the video where we find out that Ben Norton has an even more deformed and decrepit twin brother.
Hey, Ben, I need to do this for the public record. Can you tell the Moderate Rebels Patreons why you stole the account from me? How much money you stole from me? Because we had a 50-50 agreement. Can you just tell the Moderate Rebels? Because they don't know. Your patrons don't know that you stole it from me.
It's a fucking lie.
You stole tens of thousands of dollars from me.
He has to get his brother, who's actually bigger than him, to stand in front of him.
Why are you getting your twin brother to defend you? Why did your
There's
brother
his
steal
brother.
it? It's not a lie. And if it was a lie, you could deny it, but I have all the proof. I have all the receipts. You tried to steal our social media accounts too.
Come on.
You're a thief. You're a white-collar criminal. You're guilty of computer fraud. You should be in jail. Jackson Hinkle was right. Everything he said was right about you.
Why you come to Nicaragua to do this?
I brought Ben to
Jackson
Nicaragua.
Hinkle was right.
No one will even know who Ben is if it weren't for that.
It says that no one can see his articles anymore because I'm not rewriting them for him.
Dude, we're not here for this.
Yeah, you're right.
We're not here for this.
Oh, nice one, Ben. That's the original.
Ben, what kind of a Marxist steals from people? You've stolen tens of thousands of dollars from me. You've stolen so much money from me. You've lied to the patrons. You changed the name to Multipolarista.
Yeah, come
You're
on.
getting your girlfriend to defend you. Why can't you speak for yourself like a man? You're a little coward. No, you stole from me so much
This is
money.
ridiculous.
Look at this little coward.
Really unprofessional.
We'll resolve it when he pays the
You're
money back.
professional.
He lied.
Quick side note, just his Sandinista girlfriend. What member of the Sandinistas is going to date this, this skinny ass gringo who is a failed journalist? Like, this is the kind of person that Daniel Ortega needs to watch out for, because this is the kind of person who would willingly stab him in the back, like this snake woman harboring a sex pat. All right, side note over.
Lied to the public about getting fired too after he stabbed me in the back.
Yeah. What'd you come to Nicaragua for?
I came for the first time to show support. It has nothing to do with. Don't bring our kid into it. Your boyfriend's a thief. Your boyfriend's a white collar criminal pretending to be a
That's
communist.
why she's with him.
You have nothing to say, do you?
You can never like.
Yeah,
actually
you're
have a
You
life
lied
or
so
a
many
his own
times.
country.
You lied so many times to the public, and now you can't say anything in front of me.
Of course he can. Max is a coward, just as he does.
Look at the face of a complete thief and coward.
Wow. Can't even look him in the eye to have a conversation about what happened. Like, absolute criminal physiognomy confirmed, criminal behavior confirmed, absolute effeminate criminal behavior. Now is going off to China, not even living in Nicaragua anymore. Is now living in China. Yeah, and it's not just Ben. It's the class of lumpen criminals that he comes from. These professional activist / criminals who call themselves leftists and communists and God knows what else, anarchists, who we should willingly divorce ourselves from, where we are still clinging to these lessons from 2016, where we had to have the split from the liberals in 2016 after Bernie Sanders completely sold out to the Democratic Party. And in 2020, we had to have a divorce from the anarchists and the Antifa criminal scum who were terrorizing the country. And now we're having this lesson again, having to divorce ourselves from these worthless, non-productive failures who will stab us in the back at any opportunity, like Caleb Maupin did. Like we all have examples of this happening to us. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they refuse to have any sort of conversation about it because they refuse accountability. They will always refuse accountability, which is why he will never show his face again in the United States. Money aside, even though he will likely serve jail time if he ever steps foot in the United States again, he's just too ashamed to look his former colleague in the eye. So, yeah, this complete this complete fraudster. Should he ever come back, it would serve him right for us to push criminal charges against him. And we have all of these same sort of autists, maligned autists in the comments, defending him, or pushing this, or what is tantamount to defending him, pushing this both sidesism, saying, "Oh, both of them are acting unprofessionally," or there's no proof against Ben Norton blatantly ignoring the cease and desist letter. No, I like them both. I don't want to choose sides. And they fundamentally don't understand. You can't choose sides when a crime has been committed. You don't get to choose when a crime has been committed. Ben Norton is a criminal, a petty thief. Well, not even $70,000 is not a petty amount of money. Exactly. They're just jealous and think they are owed attention because they're urbanite journalists. That is exactly the case. Just that they will hold entire organizations hostage whenever their opinions aren't 100%, whenever they're not validated. They're in these professional leftists spend so much time in these validation circles, these circle jerks, that whenever their opinions are not 100% validated, they're willing to stab you in the back. They're willing to steal from you. They're willing to dox you. They're willing to do harm to your families because you didn't stroke their egos. These people are dangerous. Yeah, and we'll never hear of Ben again because his failed he'll just go off to get his doctorate in China. Excuse me. Yeah, you can thank if my sniffles bother you. You can thank my son Archer. Some of you may remember him when he was half this size. So knowing I would be suffering from allergies as long as this little guy lives with me, I still had to rescue him from the sidewalk, where he has now grown exponentially. 2 months old. Yes, this is Archer. So you can thank him for me having the sniffles. I am very allergic to cats, but I can't just leave these creatures on the sidewalk to die. I don't have it in me. So yeah, like Max said, hopefully this is the last time we will ever have to mention Ben Norton. But we leave these videos here to serve as a reminder so that we don't have to keep learning these lessons over and over again. No, I'm not a human supremacist. I do believe that human beings should live alongside animals and domesticate them. Like I do believe in the I do believe in the inherent superiority of man over nature. And I do have a vendetta against whales. I do believe we should kill all whales. Not even just to harbor their oil, just to rid them from the planet, just so we never have to be held hostage by this saving the whales political fraud scheme that's been going on from PETA. I believe we should kill all whales. Well, what? Because can you tell me? Another tangent here? Can you tell me what does a whale do? Whale, like, I think, save the cats, but not the whales, because I do think this is. Let's see if we can relate it back to the original conversation here. These laptop jockeys like Ben Norton, I think the reason people keep them around, even though they contribute nothing to society and are actually like parasitic, people think that, because I like them personally, just because they commit a crime or just because they are a net drain on society, that we should keep them around. And whales are the equivalent. You can't tell me what a whale does, what a whale contributes to the food chain, to the ecosystem. You look me in the eye and you tell me you know what a whale contributes. Nothing. Goddamn cat allergies. This is what I get. This is what I get for not being a human supremacist, for not killing all the stray cats in my neighborhood and just being done with the problem once and for all. This is what I get. Alex Jones was right. Human supremacy is the way. Show no mercy to the natural world. But yeah, so like I said, let this be the last time we speak of Ben Norton, unless he dares to raise his head to defraud the Gray Zone or any other hardworking business or friend of the anti-imperialist movement, if he ever raises his head to do this, as he has done in the past. It's worth noting. I have some other posts in my bookmarks here. Well, because when I refer to Ben Norton as an Azovite scumbag, I'm not just calling him these things because he disgusts me, but because this is one of his more infamous moments on Twitter. Let me bring up there it is. Back during right after the assassination of Daria Dugina, Alexander Dugin's daughter, who was murdered in a car bombing back in September of 2021. 2 days after this 29-year-old woman, this philosopher in Russia, was murdered, was burned to death, Benjamin Norton came onto Twitter to justify the murder, saying that Dugin himself is not an anti-imperialist and was a fascist who wants to weaken Western hegemony. And because of these gripes he had, these lies that he was spreading about Daria's father, justifying her murder, this is because she was his child, implying that she deserved this horrible death, a death that he is saying was rightly attributed to his to Alexander Dugin himself. This car bombing carried out, and after investigation, was carried out by Ukrainian neo-Nazis to send a message to the Russian population, to spread terror against those who championed the Russian special military operation. And actual fascists, these Ukrainian Azovites, who blew up Daria Dugina in a car bomb. Thank you, B. Ben Norton feels entitled to come onto Twitter and justify the actions of these Azovites. This is who he is. Like people like this, these professional leftists and activists and these laptop jockeys who contribute nothing, will say they are a friend of the working class. But when it's your turn to be attacked by him because you didn't 100% align with his opinions, he will justify the attacks against you. Again, pardon my cat allergies. And many of you will remember that this was the turning point. This is a important moment, I think, this tweet of revealing just what kind of Hitlerite scum that Ben Norton is, because the murder of Daria Dugina was the turning point in the infrared movement, the schism with these parasite leftists. It was this moment where we saw just how many of them came out of the woodwork to celebrate this horrible murder of this innocent young woman. They outed themselves as allies of these Azovites, justifying their heinous crimes. But the burning to death of Daria Dugina, the worst of them will celebrate, will openly mock, and then the more subtle scoundrels, as Max Blumenthal called him, a scoundrel, the more subtle of them, the more dangerous of them, will will weasel their way into your circles, and then when murders like this happen, will try and make it seem like it was the fault of the people who are being murdered by the Nazis. Like this absolute human trash. Like it's time that we stop. It's time that we stop with these civil niceties. I commend Max Blumenthal, who for 2 years kept it civil, and only until he was defrauded, and only until the second time he was defrauded, didn't even do it. The first time waited more than a year, and then the second time he was defrauded, only then did he denounce Ben Norton as a criminal. Like it's time for us to actually not just cut ties, with these professional leftists, but anyone who defends these people. We are not the ones who started this this schism. We are not the factionalists here. We are simply defending ourselves against the attacks of these people. They always are the ones who attack first, like Ben Norton, who is attacking his coworkers in public, causing these wildly embarrassing splits. We must cut ties. We must call them out whenever they show their heads, because we can't be wasting energy on them. It would, and to give you an example of how this becomes a larger problem, because it's not just Ben Norton. It's people like Ben Norton who eventually get into political power, whose actions have consequences. Yeah, he's a failure, but there are people who make it into the halls of power whose actions have real consequences, not just for the individuals they defraud, but who defraud the country. Like with Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is the prime example of this professional activist leftist, of this pseudo-socialist, of this criminal scum, Azovite, defending the actions of the Ukrainians. Bernie Sanders has proven himself to be exactly that. A senator of the United States, training underlings under him to replace him once he dies of old age, to reproduce that same subterfuge. This happened earlier today. Let me pull up the video here. So this video was taken by a member of Code Pink, another one of these, Trotskyist orgs, these who were causing splits over Jackson Hinkle during the Rage Against the War Machine movement. So I'm not saying that I celebrate Code Pink, but I'm saying that this is the consequences of this is where solidarity gets you. This member of Code Pink was at a peaceful protest in Bernie Sanders' office, pushing for peace in Ukraine. This is a member of Code Pink who was arrested for holding up a quote. That's what he
For holding up a sign, a quote.
Peacefully protesting, holding up a sign, and was arrested by Bernie Sanders' security in his office.
Thank you, Leo. Why are you getting arrested?
For holding up a sign, a quote from Bernie Sanders calling for negotiation. Bernie Sanders had me arrested for holding up his own quote.
This is where solidarity with these people gets you. Like Bernie Sanders had this man arrested for holding up a sign with a quote of Bernie Sanders, so that Bernie could continue sending money to the Azovites in Ukraine. This is who these people are. Bernie is the number one political fraud of the 21st century in the United States. And you have to ask yourself, after 80 years of being alive on this earth and reproducing himself in the likes of, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Jamal Bowman and these, and the squad, the fraud squad, his actions, the sum of his actions is in saying that he is against war, but whose actions produce more war and reproduce more fraudsters like AOC, who was put into office, mind you. One of the reasons she was put in office those years ago was because she promised to oust Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, to challenge her and to be, to be the hardliner who would hold Nancy Pelosi accountable whenever she strayed from her promises to the people. And now we have, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez defending the likes of, Trudeau, who is giving standing ovations to a member of the Waffen SS. These where we have like a much more true representation of a public official who actually represents the people, and Matt Gaetz, who said he was going to hold Speaker Kevin McCarthy accountable, and then did that. Not a progressive, a Republican, a MAGA congressman, a member of the MAGA caucus. Once again, proving that proximity to the MAGA movement, not to these Hitlerite leftist principles, proximity to the MAGA movement defines the most working class consciousness in this country. Proves it with hard historical facts. And the last thing I'll show for you today, a video by Twitter user Joe Biden Hates Black People, proving this point. It's Matt Gaetz who is actually doing what AOC said she was going to do. Let me play the audio here.
It's all right, Elon. We understand why you're looking at Matt Gaetz like the last turkey leg at Thanksgiving dinner, because the entire country is looking at this man like that after he successfully ousted Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House. Now, there is a long list of reasons as to why both conservatives and leftists wanted Kevin McCarthy out. But at the top of that list is the fact that Matt Gaetz and the majority of the country was tired of Kevin McCarthy working with Joe Biden to hold the country hostage in order to send money to Nazis. So I applaud Gaetz for sparking the fire of accountability that his party and the Democrats were unwilling to do until he decided to do so. Now, the ousting of Kevin McCarthy brought many of us back to the moment where we asked AOC and the squad to force the vote. Basically, when Nancy Pelosi was running for Speaker of the House, AOC and the squad had the ability to force a vote on universal health care in the middle of the pandemic, or stop Nancy Pelosi from being House Speaker. In other words, we asked the squad to hold Pelosi accountable for not governing on behalf and in the best interest of her constituency. Like what Matt Gaetz just did. And what they told us is that trying to force a Speaker of the House to correctly implement legislation for the benefit of the people would never work. And therefore, we shouldn't even try it. The same thing Republicans told Matt Gaetz when he announced that he was going to oust McCarthy. But Gaetz ignored the 98% of Republicans that supported McCarthy and McCarthy was ousted anyway. It's almost as if holding someone accountable shouldn't be a matter of whether or not you can gain the political upper hand, but should only be a matter of whether or not it's the right thing to do.
100%. We need to get past. We need to expose this kind of like professionalist thinking from these leftist and progressive types who only choose the positions that they do, not because upholding the rights of the working class and of the end of countries under siege by the United States military, not because it's we should be upholding these things because it's the right thing to do, because it is a historical fact that it is the working class and the periphery of the world who produce everything to end up reconciling with the means of production that were stolen from them. We should not be taking these positions to get salaried positions. So once again, this goes to show that proximity to MAGA, not proximity to whatever leftist ideology you cling to, it's MAGA that is the revolutionary subject in this country. It's the MAGA movement which will reconcile the American people with their own political power and with their own economic power. No other force in this country, no other movement. MAGA is at the center to take power back from the globalists who run the country. And it reminds me, as some closing thoughts, calling for this, if we do formally introduce a split with these wreckers, we are not the ones who introduced the split. They're the ones who attacked us first. But if we formally recognize the split and enforce it, it reminds me of the decision that Lincoln had to do during the Civil War in 1860, where he saw that national unity was not an end in of itself. Between the free states and the slave states, a unity under those conditions would forfeit the country to slave interests, would the entire country into a permanent slave country, because it could only exist like professional leftists today, who can only exist when you give 100% of your, when you validate 100% of their worldview. Lincoln had to formally recognize that split and declare civil war against the slave powers, because national unity is not an end in of itself. It is a means of upholding the constitutional rights given to the mass majority of the population. When national unity subverts the rights of the mass majority, it should be formally done away with. And just like the Confederate slave owners who had informally and constantly attacked the country, the mass majority of the country, not just the slaves, but also poor white working class people and people in the North. We have been constantly attacked by snakes like Bernie Sanders, like AOC, like Ben Norton, like Caleb Maupin, constantly attacked by these people. And we must call for a formal split, a formal recognition, not a civil war. Democrats want to call what's happening with the Speaker of the House a Republican civil war. It's not. It is just a formal recognition of persona non grata. To call these people out as persona non grata within the working class movement in this country. Proximity to MAGA. MAGA communism will make America great again. And no other force can give political power to the people in this country. No other force but MAGA communism can close the US-Mexico border. No other force can end these expeditionary wars overseas. No other force can increase production and bring down the debt ceiling. No other force can reconcile American citizens with their political and economic power. Let us no longer vie for peace with these snakes. It is our historical mission to make America great again, with or without these Azovite scum. With that, I thank you all for tuning in as long as you have. I will remind you that if you aren't following already on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you aren't already following us on Telegram, you can do so. The link is in the chat here. If you aren't already following us on x.com, you can follow us there at The Barracks Live. We appreciate you for tuning in whenever we go live here or on X. We appreciate you for following us. And I know that y'all are a bunch of catty hoes who are coming in just because you like gossip. But I appreciate you for tuning in anyway. With that, that's all I got, folks. I'm out.